Hello, I'm David Bianco. Thank you for joining me. If you're returning or a subscriber, I really appreciate you coming back. If it's your first time here, welcome. So this is going to be part 2 of my interview with Dr. Tony Shore about his experience in the record industry, and also some reflections on the boom of vinyl, the demise of the CD, a look at his relationships with people in the band Yes, and some other surprises. That's coming up next here at the Sound of Safe and Sound, Texas. So what'd your journey take on and then after that?
Well, I worked there, and I could still be working there. It's one of the only times when I left a job they begged me to stay, and they threw me a party when I left there. But my wife and we got married right before, like the week before we moved to Nashville. We got married. She was out in California, and when we were dating, and then I got the job in Nashville, and we decided to get married. So we got married here in Minnesota, in my hometown. Then we moved out to Nashville and lived there for 6 years. And that's when I worked for Myrrh and for Essential. And the whole time I was there, I still did radio. I had a Saturday night show on the Way FM network called The A Zone, where I played a lot of rock and alternative music, Christian rock and alternative, everything from Christian punk like MXPX to those alternative classics like the 77s and even some Phil Keaggy and Charlie Peacock and other artists. And it was great because doing a show in Nashville, I could have artists come in as guests, the guys from the choir, Derry and Steve Hindalong, and those guys would come in and do an interview. So it was a live show every Saturday night. That was a lot of fun. But I really loved working with the staff and people at Essential and at Myrrh. It was so great. But my wife and I had lived there 6 years, and we wanted to start a family. And all of her family and all of my family were back in Minnesota. So, and she got a pretty good job offer back in Minnesota. So, and I had been, it had been since if you count Christian radio, really 1985 to 1985 to 1998, I worked in the Christian music industry. And then I'm like, well, I can move back. So we moved back to Minnesota, and I did some independent radio promotions and independent promotions for some artists, because you can do that remotely. So I did that from up here in Minnesota when we first moved back. But then a guy approached me named Steve West. He is actually an attorney, a U.S. District Attorney at the state's attorney office in for the state of North Carolina. But on the side, he started an acoustic folk label. He signed this artist, Jan Christ, and worked with Brooke Williams and Pierce Pettis and some other acoustic art-based artists. But he wanted to take it to the next level. So he hired me to help him run the label and do marketing and radio and run the label for him and coordinate manufacturing. So I did that for a number of years back here. And we signed Aaron Sprinkle, who's a great young talent producer and songwriter. Terry Scott Taylor of Daniel Amos and Swirling Eddies fame did a solo record. Phil Madera, who's a great player, plays with Emmylou Harris in her band. We had a number of great releases on the label. We did a tribute to Brian Wilson called Making God Smile, and we had a lot of great artists on that compilation too. Randy Stonehill, Terry Taylor, a lot of great artists did songs for that, and that sold quite well. But Steve, we either needed to put more money into it and take it to the next level, and CDs were dying out, and our biggest chain that supported us was Borders Books and Music. They gave us end caps, listening stations. They loved us. We sold well there. And then they started closing. So the label folded, and then I just went back to doing voiceover work in radio. So that kind of brings us full circle. But during that time, I got to meet and know some members of my favorite band, Yes, which I'm really excited about because I love the band Yes. I grew up listening to them and got to know Rick Wakeman, who, again, the nicest, kindest, funniest guy. Hilarious, really. Rick is his shows, if you ever see him solo, the best part of the show is in between the songs when he's talking and telling stories about working with David Bowie and playing keyboards on, changes, and working with Cat Stevens and doing the arrangement for Morning is Broken, and then he plays it. But he's funny, and he makes fun of Yes and some of the sillier, more Spinal Tap like issues that Yes dealt with, being so proggy and over the top. So like Tales from Topographic Oceans having 25-minute songs, he would have his assistant ordering curry and bring it under the stage. He'd bend down under his keyboards and he's just eating curry during the show. So that was great. But I got to meet John Anderson, who's my favorite vocalist, the lead singer for Yes, not the country John Anderson.
No,
the lead singer for Yes. Who actually I'm going to go see the end of this month. John Anderson is celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Yes album Close to the Edge, which fans consider it's probably one of the best prog rock albums ever made, and it's one of the best in their catalog. And he's playing it in its entirety, but what makes it unique is his band. The band is ages, I think, 15 to 22. It's Paul Green's School of Rock is the band. Wow. Like the best players from the School of Rock around the country. These kids are his musicians, and I want to tell you, I've seen some video clips and read reviews. Phenomenal. So
wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to check that out. That's
definitely. They're on tour, and he's getting good reviews. He's 70. I want to say 76, and his voice, unbelievable. Sounds just like it did. And I've asked him about his voice, and he goes, tea and honey. You take a little warm tea, not hot, warm, put honey in it and a little lemon. And he does that before and after he sings every time. And that's how he protects his throat, and that's what does it. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
That is, it's certainly a sight above the Not Dead Yet tour by Phil Collins. But anyway.
Yes. Yeah. John's still pretty active. Yeah.
You gotta give the guy credit for being really upfront about it. Phil, I really love you. I do.
Yes. Yeah. That's true.
But John, I mean, I'm really glad to hear that he's still out there, because you're right. His voice is very unique. And, there's kind of, I say, multiple Yes bands in the sense that they had different vocalists and different, phases in as a group. And, but that, early on, the Roger Dean covers, oh my gosh, just fabulous stuff. I mean, just the artwork there, I remember listening to the albums and really looking at the artwork very intensely.
Yes.
Which was much more difficult to do on a CD, I might add. But,
yes, vinyls.
But I digress. I digress about vinyl.
I have a huge vinyl collection, as do you, and we're record geeks. We're both collectors, and you had Doug Osbury on, who's a huge record collector and a good friend of ours, and Armando, amazing guy. Super nice guy. It's just what a great community of music fans and record collectors out there, and I just appreciate you, David, for bringing us together and doing the show. It's great.
Yeah, thanks very much. So, last topic I was going to ask you about: what do you see, from an industry perspective going on, or what's the next thing? Is the CD comeback craze going to really happen? Vinyl going to price itself out of the market? What do you see?
Well, yeah, vinyl pricing is crazy. I mean, I'll admit I didn't predict the vinyl comeback, but I knew it would always be there, because there's always guys, as long as my generation is still around, there's always people into vinyl, but I didn't predict it would come back as strong as it did. But the industry is interesting. I look at it from a couple of different perspectives. I mean, there's retail, and I love independent record stores and going to record stores and shopping and flipping through the records and used stores. And I saw that almost die out. And so many stores closed in the country. I mean, from Tower Records, the big chain, to all the mom and pops. But I'm fortunate enough now to live in, the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Rolling Stone. It's been a few years ago. I don't know, 5-10 years ago. They did it made the print edition, but Rolling Stone did top 10 record stores in the United States. In fact, it might have even been the world, but I think maybe it was US or North America. And number 5 was the Electric Fetus in Minneapolis. And the manager, the guy who manages it and has for years, Bob Fuchs, is a good friend of mine. And that is a fantastic store. But there's Waterloo and Austin. And anytime I travel, I go to record stores. But I saw that almost die out. And now I can't. There's record stores in the Twin Cities I've never been to because they keep popping up. And I love this resurgence, but yeah, it's like the housing bubble. There's a vinyl bubble right now, as you know, as far as cost. And I think it's gotten outrageous, but there's a plant as far as CDs. Well, I think the second largest CD plant in North America is also in the Twin Cities in Plymouth, Minnesota, called ADS, Advanced Duplication Services. And they are investing, I don't know how many millions, it's millions and millions of dollars in a vinyl plant. They're putting in brand new vinyl equipment, having people from overseas come over, engineers. And so they're putting in a pressing plant. Because right now the pressing plants can't keep up. I mean, if you're an independent artist and want to get vinyl, it's 6 months to a year.
Easy. Yeah, easy.
And because the majors have it all blocked up, and even the majors can't get all their stuff in time. They've had to delay release dates. So this is all fascinating, and I love to see it because I want record stores to keep going, and I want the industry to be healthy. But as far as artists, I mean, the problem is with the invent of the internet, it became, it used to be deep, but narrow. Now it's an inch deep and, infinite wide. So the problem is you have too much, there's too many choices out there, and the internet it's so hard for an artist to take hold and really break. And, you have for the younger folks and you have TikTok and you have music and TV. And those are really the two ways that music breaks. Radio doesn't really break new music anymore. And podcasts can help. But again, there's limitations. They haven't figured out an affordable way to let podcasts play licensed music. So that's a problem. And believe me, that's a topic I could talk to you all day long about, because I do a little show called The Obvious Popcast. Yep. And it's really a music show. I play full songs. And I wanted to do that legally and make it a podcast and make it available on Apple Podcasts. So I know copyright attorneys in Nashville. So I've reached out to a couple of them and said, here's what I'm doing. Tell me what I can do to make this legal. And it's so gray and so convoluted. Basically, the legal advice I got is you're so small. I mean, I have 200 followers or something, that subscribe, and I do it for my friends, but they said, until you get big or reach somebody's attention, there's no licensing. I pay this one licensing fee, but technically it doesn't really matter if I do or not, but I do. It's not like where radio pays a monthly fee to BMI and ASCAP and CSAC, and then they can play, and venues have to pay that as well. And that's how they're able to play the songs legally. Mm-hmm. But for podcasting, that's why a lot of people have to use podcast safe music, etc., because technically there's no way to do it fully legally, but yet because there aren't clear laws in the books, I mean, the Apple can refuse to play it because you're playing copyrighted music, or YouTube can take it down, but the legal ramifications are different. So they need to get that sorted out, because podcasts are so popular, and I think that's where that could really help drive music in the future. The music industry has always had a hard time keeping up. They were behind on the digital downloads, they're behind on the streaming, and so they're always playing catch up. But it is good to see some physical media. CDs, CDs are so devalued right now. I could turn my computer and I have thousands of CDs. I have probably 10,000 CDs. Most of them I couldn't give away, right? You can barely give away a CD right now. I mean, there's a few that people go crazy for that they want. There's always the cult following bands that I have a couple CDs that I found. I looked on Discogs and it's like $200. But most of them, some of the ones I love, could
dime a dozen. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it would be really hard for CDs to come back. Cassettes are more of a novelty thing.
Yeah.
But people are paying more for cassettes right now than they are CDs.
Absolutely.
so that's absolutely ridiculous. CDs still have a great sound. I like analog sound. So I love vinyl. CDs are more convenient. I do stream when I'm in my car. I use my iPhone and listen. I have Apple Music and I have all my music downloaded in Apple Music. So I stream music, but the digital sound waves, I get ear fatigue when I listen digitally. When I listen to an analog source like a vinyl, I don't get the same ear fatigue, So it's just that there's a difference there. But I'm sorry to see. I really am a proponent of the CD, and I love it. And I love vinyl too. I like them both about the same. So I hate to see the CD go the way of the buffalo, but I think they are.
Yeah, I mean, I had to buy a 2016 vehicle to make sure I still had a CD player in it.
Oh, yeah. Good luck finding a car with a CD player.
Not now. Yeah, my wife's got a 2019. It's a Volkswagen, and the CD player is in the glove box, literally.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, there's a nice head unit with Apple CarPlay and a nice touch screen. But there's actually, I give them credit. They gave you the capability. It's in the glove box. Can you imagine driving down the highway at 80 miles an hour and leaning over to change your CD? I can see the policeman now. What happened, officer? Well, I was trying to change my... I was getting tired of listening to Phil Keaggy, and I wanted to listen to Frank Zappa. Anyway, so then they take you off to the cycle ward. But anyway, that's a whole different thing. But you're right. I mean, it is really nice to be able to touch vinyl again and to be in these stores. Yeah. I really, the smell of it, the feel of it. It's just, and there's a whole new generation of kids who have grown to appreciate what they didn't have.
My two oldest kids, 19 and 23, they both have, Audio Technica turntables and powered speakers, and they both buy records.
Yeah. So it's there, but it really bugs me when I see, I just saw they re-released Foreigner's Greatest Hits. It's got 10 songs on it and it's $38.99. Give me a break.
Yeah. That bubbles, that could hurt the industry when it does burst. I mean, because, these plants are expanding and stores are expanding to carry more vinyl, and they're basing their operations costs on selling records at $30, $40 and the labels. And it just, I don't think it can sustain it, especially when our generation, not that you and I are old, David, but, folks who are in their 50s now, when we pass, I hope there's enough swell to keep it going, and where music is not just background. And I explain to my kids how, before the internet, you would put on a really good pair of headphones and put on Pink Floyd's The Wall and listen from start to finish.
Oh, absolutely.
A concept record. You would put on a Yes album, Close to the Edge, and you'd listen to the whole thing, flip it, listen. ELO's Out of the Blue double album. You'd put that thing on and you'd go all the way through all four sides. And it was just awesome. And number one, it was analog, so you could listen without getting ear fatigue. And you'd look at the lyrics and study the album jacket, and it was a lot of fun. Now it's like, hey, I heard this song in the background on a funny video. I want to download that and listen to it in my Spotify playlist. And so, there's nothing wrong there. Times change, but I just I must be getting old because I want to hang on to the past as long as possible.
I always have this list that I'm keeping of songs that should have been released as singles, and I'm going to do a video on it.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I've gone A through C. I've got A through G now, and so I'm going to do it maybe by group and artist by alphabet because I can't do it all in one video.
Yeah.
But I'm skipping like the Beatles because that would be stupid. And I mean, it's just But,
wait, there were songs by the Beatles that weren't released as singles at some point.
I think number 9.
I could count them on one hand, probably. You listen to any Beatles record, and it's like, is this a greatest hits record? Because I've heard all these songs.
No, that's so true. Back in the day, it's like flip side records, right? It's like they were both were hits.
They're the only group that some of the B sides were bigger hits than the A sides. Seriously, it's that's crazy, right?
Did you know that the song Signs by the 5-Man Electrical Band was actually a B-side, and then it got caught fire and got re-released as an A-side?
I didn't know that about that. I love that song, but I didn't know that story.
Yep,
and
I have both
I'm sure
of them.
I've heard that about a few songs. There are some songs out there that were B-sides that became hits and the A-sides bombed. It just shows that somebody who was in like a radio promoter, because I would pick singles like at Murr, they would give me the advance release and say, what do you think CHR? What do you think adult contemporary? What do you think for rock? And we would go through, and there would be some argument, and sometimes the artist would have a completely different idea. I will say that for the most part, the artists I worked with, their idea of what should have been a single was completely awful.
Right. Wrong.
Completely. Sometimes we went with them if they insisted, and I'm like, nope. And then you get yours first and mine second, and then the proof was in the pudding. But I always got a kick out of that.
Yeah. Did you know, another fun fact, the first Beach Boys #1 single was I Get Around. The flip side was Don't Worry Baby. It made it to number 22. But Don't Worry Baby is on the top 500 of Rolling Stone magazine's top 500 songs.
Yeah. Oh, it's not always the best song, the most artistic song, or the lasting, the song everybody remembers. I mean, Brian Wilson's most famous song is probably God Only Knows, next to Good Vibrations, but God Only Knows wasn't like a #1 top 40 hit. So,
no, absolutely not.
But it's still one of the greatest. It's listed in greatest songs of all time or best written songs.
Paul McCartney says it's the best song ever.
Yeah. So that's a good point. It's not always about the singles, but it was funny. I have a really quick before we go, one last story, because we're talking about picking singles. So when I worked for Word, Murr Records, a division of Word, part of Word Entertainment, Word had a publishing company, Word Publishing, and in Nashville, all these labels and publishing companies have writers that write for them. And one of the Word publishing writers, who was always trying to get their songs placed on records that we would put out, her name was Gigi Garner. Okay. And she had a song, I believe it was called How Long, and it was on there was a new artist signed called Greg Long, and he did a duet with Margaret Becker. I don't know if you're familiar with Margaret Becker or Greg Long, but they were artists. Margaret Becker was on Sparrow Records. Greg Long was he's now part of the group Avalon, which is a Christian group. But
I know that.
But Greg Long did a solo album, and the duet with Margaret Becker, I listened through the record, and somebody at the label or maybe Greg was pushing something for a single, and I'm like, well, #1, Margaret Becker's has a known name and you don't. She's like 4 or 5 records into her career now, and this is your first record. Greg Long, new signing to Murr. So that's a winner, and the song is just great. So I picked that as the first single, and Gigi Garner was in the office, and they wanted to introduce me as a songwriter. And she goes, "You picked my song as the single?" And I go, "Yeah." And she goes, "Well, I hope it goes #1." And she goes, if you can get it #1, because they always, as a songwriter, if you have a #1 single on the charts, even if it's gospel charts, that helps you get other songs placed. That's what you want as a songwriter, is to have a #1 song, right? And plus, you're going to make more money off of it then, because you get royalties. So she said, what can I do for you? If you get it #1, I'll do something for you, take you out to eat. Well, as it turns out, I had just found out her dad was James Garner, Jim Rockford.
Wow.
And I said, my favorite TV show growing up was The Rockford Files. I've seen every episode millions of times. I love your dad. Get me an autographed picture of your dad if I get this to number one. And so it went number one on the, CCM, CHR top 40 charts, all the Billboard gospel charts, number one song. So she comes in and she said, thanks for the number one. We had a big party, and she gets a plaque. I got a plaque. I have it somewhere here that says congratulations for the number one from Word Publishing, and has the CD and the single cover. But anyway, she goes, I'm going to get your gift. And, oh, the autographed picture. Did he get it for me? She goes, I'm going to give you something better. And I go, what? She goes, an invitation to my wedding. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, the wedding's going to be at the Vanderbilt campus chapel, and and show up 45 minutes early. Be at this door, the east entrance or whatever it was, south entrance, 45 minutes early, and that'll be my gift to you. And I'm like, what? And she goes, you want to meet my dad, don't you? You want to have a conversation with him, don't you? And I told him, you're the guy that got my song to number one and put me on the map as a national songwriter. I'm like, yeah. So my wife and I show up half hour early. Limo pulls up. Guy gets out, opens the door. Out steps James Garner, larger than life, walks up, says, are you Tony Shore? And sticks his hand out, a huge hand. Just the guy is amazing. Everything you'd think he would be. He was so nice. Sat on the stone bench inside the little portico entrance there, just chatted with him for like a half hour. Unbelievable. Wow. So that's a little music industry. That's just one of my, I'll never forget that. And talk about picking the right single, right? Yeah.
Well, and I really, I always had I think I have an ear for that. And I always had wished I was in the industry.
You apparently do, the Michael W. Smith song, right?
Yeah, I guess that was one. But I don't know why. To me, it's kind of like, I think almost anybody could have figured that one out, I would have thought. But
yeah,
it's just
place
so
in this world. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. But anyway, yeah. And by the way, the Beach Boys' "I Get Around" was the first single to knock a British group off of number one from when the Beatles started that in early 64. So in July of 64, they were the first U.S. band to kick off a British band, because it was them, Peter and Gordon, and some others that, and the Stones, so that was kind of the, red, white, and blue thing, in early July of that year. Yeah. So
love the Beach Boys. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw the photo of you and Brian Wilson. I looked at your podcast, and I looked at your photos.
Met him many times because we worked on that tribute project. And
I'll bet.
And one of the members of his band did a record on Silent Planet. So we got to go on the Smile tour that he did. Saw him numerous times, got to go out to eat with him, introduce him. My son was 10 or 11 at the time, and Brian said maybe 3-4 words to me backstage, but just talked to my son, like got down and at his level, and just asked him what his favorite song was. And my son goes, Barbara Ann, I love that. And I like the vocals on that one. And Brian goes, me too. That was my favorite too.
I just saw the documentary on him. I just saw it a few weeks ago.
Really amazing, isn't it?
It was fabulous. By the way, I don't know if I'm trying to send you a text on this, but my number one album so far this year is The Tipping Point. I saw you just put that on.
Tears for Fears. Yep. Love that.
I'm just like you. I did not like it at first. The first few times I did not like it.
The first listen, I thought, no, this doesn't sound like Tears. Where's Everybody Wants to Rule the World and Shout and Sowing the Seeds of Love. I was hoping for more Beatles, but then I just listened to it as a record, and I'm like, holy cow, this is a great record. It is a great record. If you can, almost as like, if forget it's Tears for Fears and just listen to it as a record, I go, this is the best record I've heard. It is probably, it's probably going to be 2 for me or 3 on my top 10 list. I'm still working on it.
Yeah. No, it is. And I got the 45 that has the other 2 songs.
Yes, I do too. I had to get that.
That at Target.
I've got like 3 versions of that record just so I could have all the bonus stuff,
I just ordered a black vinyl of it because I have colored vinyl of it. And I think sometimes colored vinyl doesn't sound as good as black vinyl, but
Yeah.
It's just me. But it is an
No,
amazing
sometimes
album.
I don't know. I think you're onto something there. I'll tell you what doesn't sound good. Picture Discs.
Oh, well, yeah, forget
They're
that.
worthless. Yeah.
I'm looking at a few. I have them just because I want a Dark Side of the Moon on my wall and a
Sure.
Wish You Were Here on my wall, but I'm not going to play them.
The only picture discs I own are Yes picture discs.
I've got a 90125. I've got a 90125.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. I got to show you one, Tony.
I have everything and anything ELO related. I think that's important, right?
That's not only important, it's critical.
Yes, it's critical.
It's critical. So I'm looking.
Although I don't have the clear vinyl, any ELO on clear vinyl. I didn't know that was the thing.
Yeah. Well, actually, you must be reading my mind because I just went into my collection, and you can maybe read that.
Limited edition, individually numbered on clear vinyl. I don't have that one.
You will in a week. I am sending this to you.
Oh, you don't have to do that. No, I'll pay you for it.
No, I'm sending it to you.
That is awesome.
As a thank you for doing this interview, I'm going to send you this.
I have the Mophie.
I do too.
Of El Dorado, which is awesome.
Yes, I do too. Yeah, but I thought I would. This is my last clear vinyl of Yellow that I had, and I know you love them.
Well, you have one for yourself, though.
I have many for myself.
No, good.
No, but this I want to. Yeah, so it's number. What is it there? 2600. Yeah, 2665.
That's awesome. Wow.
So I think I have your address in my database. If not, I'll ask you for it, but I'll send that to you as a thank you. And I do thank you very sincere. No, I thank you really sincerely for the time and the reminiscing. I mean, wow. That's what I love about doing this is that it brings back so many triggers, and that's what music does, right? That's the good thing about music.
It is. Well, this is a fun show. I mean, even the episode you did with Doug Osbury, I mean, as homely as that guy is. I mean, I always tell people I can't properly explain myself in this medium. I'm a radio guy. I've got the perfect face for radio, but I can't. Doug Osbury. Wow.
Yeah, he actually, he was born in a hospital, but he actually came out of a dumpster. I understand. So
Doug is quick to point out that I have a perfect face for radio, and then I always tell him, Doug, you have the perfect voice for print. So there's that. No, I love Doug.
No, we love
He's been
Doug.
So kind to me. Yeah.
No, he has. And he brought us together, really. I mean, I know he bought a record, but he forcibly joined us and said, you guys have a lot in common. You need to talk.
Yeah, he's good about that, making connections in this community.
And networking, as you know, in the industry, networking is, it's all about networking. Yeah.
Yep, it is.
So I am very proud to have met you more directly.
Yeah.
And thank you for the time. And I know you're going to keep on spinning. I will start listening to your podcast. Oh, yeah. I really love that last one, St. Vincent. Okay, I love St. Vincent.
I love St. Vincent. You know who turned me on to St. Vincent?
Was your daughter?
My 19-year-old daughter.
You said that in your
19-year-old daughter. Yeah. Yep. So she's got good taste in music. My kids, I hear them playing the music. They turn it on in the bathroom when we shower. We've got like a Bose speaker in there, and I hear all this '80s music coming out, and so I know that's my '80s playlist they're listening to. They love it, so that's good.
Yeah, one of my daughters.
I taught them well.
Yeah, right. My same thing. I've got a daughter that she goes to all the record shows with me, and
that's awesome.
She said, I wish I would have lived in the 60s. Oh my gosh, the music.
Well, there you have it. The rest of the story, as they say, Tony Shore, Dr. Tony Shore. You look him up in Discogs, you'll see some of the records and the labels that he was involved with, which is, really interesting to know somebody and then see them affiliated in that way. But really a great guy, a great communicator. I really thank Doug Osbury for bringing us together. We traveled similar paths, albeit me more from a consumer standpoint and him more from the back office of record making and artist management, which is interesting, but it's really a love and a passion that someone has to have to do that. And he had some great stories, which we're always interested to hear on this channel, the things that you don't maybe hear anywhere else. And I thank him again for his time. And you can look forward to other interviews in the future of people that are in the industry, as well as I try to get myself a little more connected and bring those to you here on the Sound of Safe and Sound Texas. So as always, I thank you for watching. If you would subscribe, that always is appreciated. Let your friends know. Like this video with the thumbs up if you did, and any comments are always welcome. Glad to hear them and glad to respond. So for now, I'll say thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Sound of Safe and Sound Texas. Take care, everybody.